Over the past couple of months, I have been somewhat binge reading a bunch of manga over the Weekly Shonen Jump app, as well as online in general with a bunch of different manga titles. One of the most recent ones that I have just finished binge reading was actually Twin Star Exorcists. I was first exposed to Twin Star Exorcists through its anime that came out a couple years ago. The anime came out back in 2016 and it ended in 2017. It ran for one whole year, but roughly almost the first half of the anime, aside from a few fluff and some filler to help expand the runtime, was all canon material from the manga. But after episode 20, where we get to the first time skip of the series, and that's actually an interesting thing because Twin Star Exorcists actually has a time skip very early on in the series, after introducing a whole bunch of stuff, but the manga continued past that point, and for some reason, the studio working on Twin Star Exorcists decided to do a whole bunch of anime original content to cap off the series with a somewhat anime original ending, which the people who only watched the anime, like myself, were like, okay, nothing too spectacular. It wasn't amazing, it wasn't god-awful, it was okay. But then, a couple of months ago, around like late July, early August, I realized that I have been skipping over the Twin Star Exorcist manga, even though I've seen countless times as I was reading stuff weekly like One Piece, My Hero, etc., that Twin Star Exorcist kept getting a new chapter every month. Currently, at the time of me recording this, it has 87 chapters out. And that there was news over a month ago or two that it's actually entering its final arc. When I get the chance, I'm just going to read the manga and see where I leave off. I jumped on from where the anime stopped the manga material. Where episode 20 ended, I continued from where that left off. I went back to the manga from beginning all the way up to where the anime ended, and then I just continued onward. And my god, it is a real crime to see Twin Star Exorcists get this horrible treatment for its anime. I mean, literally, it lasted a whole year. Yet they could have just done, you know what, let's just have one season. Then we take a break until enough chapters come out. We adapt the next arc for our season, wait, and then do it again. In all honesty, it probably would have done something similar to Attack on Titan. Remember how long it took for Attack on Titan's second season to come out due to it being monthly? Attack on Titan stuff had to be panned out. In all honesty, not that great pacing. Honestly, the story and action of Attack on Titan kind of saved it in that regard. It still felt amazing to see. But anyway, Twin Star Exorcists could have benefited from a pretty streamlined season. And the stuff that goes on in the manga, a lot of stuff happens that, honestly, if I said in detail on anything, it would just spoil the actual experience you could have reading it. For one thing, let me just get this straight out of the way. The manga has amazing artwork. The artwork in the Twin Star Exorcist manga is honestly breathtaking. Whether it be the character designs of the Kagari, the backgrounds, the action pieces, which, let me tell you this, the manga has some pretty outstanding action sequences, which is, honestly, the anime did a pretty decent job, but I think they could have done a whole lot better. And the studio did a really good job adapting it for the most part, but yeah, it is just a lot. Not to mention the characters get developed in a much better way, the story is way more engaging, we get more in-depth looks on the side characters, we get some major reveals right after the time skip of a whole lot of stuff that we really could have loved to see animated. Whether it be the actual true end goal of the series, the fates of the Twin Star Exorcists, or their actual destiny and why the Twin Star Exorcists actually got their destiny to begin with, Rokuro and Benio's relationship actually developing, and them developing as actual separate characters, let me mind you. And honestly, I am really liking the side characters a lot more. We get some good focus on the side casts, which they get developed pretty damn well. Not to mention the Basara, which are supposed to be the strongest Kagari ever, that are more human-like and insanely powerful. We see a lot of them develop because they're not just one-note villains and just straight up evil. A lot of them actually have some sort of development, and it's very satisfying because having your villains as just some mindless monsters or creatures made entirely out of negative emotions that just want to kill all humans and absorb their powers gets very bland. Kamui the Basra and Yuto the ex-exorcist, such good villains when they were introduced because it was a change up of the status quo, so drastically. And for Yuto and Kamui, it gave personal stakes to the main characters of Rokuro and Benio. And another thing, Rokuro is the go-to protagonist of the series, but the author goes out of his way to write Benio as her own main character. She has her own character arc she develops in a very realistic way, in a very honestly believable and well-written way. There's even a portion of the manga where we focus entirely on her. She has her own arc in the manga where we explore everything from her perspective and how things develop for her after something happens. That actually makes you question how things are going to play out. We even get some really decent conflicts between, well, the main cast. There's actually some sort of conflicts or secrets being kept that have to come into light. And I'm not gonna lie, this series has been out for 7 whole years at this point, and it's finally reaching its conclusion. It's hard to believe that at the time the anime came out, there was roughly 3 years worth of content for them to adapt. So I guess they didn't know what they were planning to do when they were adapting for the anime. They really needed a plan, in all honesty. It's just disappointing. In all honesty, before I finish off this video with my closing points, one quick thing. The Twin Star Exorcists anime really needs to get its own reboot. Whether it be a entire, I don't know how long of a series, encapsulating the entire story from beginning to end once the manga is over, or just make it a seasonal thing to cover the entirety of the manga. Either way is fine. I'm just saying this, either way it's fine. Now back to the topic at hand before I end up closing off this video. The Twin Star Exorcist manga is a really good series to get into. It's not the greatest magnum opus series that everyone is going to love, but it's a series nonetheless that you will in fact enjoy. Story, characters, the action, and artwork, not to mention how things end up progressing. There are moments in the series where you're like, is this even a shonen? Because a lot of times it crosses into seinen territory way more times than you would think for an average shonen title to go. I mean, it is supernatural, it has demons and stuff like that, but it comes to a point where a lot of characters, whether they be important or just supporting, there are characters that just drop off like flies. People do die, and a lot of them are in gruesome ways. It's up to the point where, should this even be a Jump title? But then again, right now we got Chainsaw Man in Shonen Jump, so there's that, but anyway, off topic, completely off topic again. But yeah, this series really knows how to raise the stakes. Not to mention how the battle system works, which is honestly pretty creative with how you have exorcists that have to use like talismans or actual spells in order to get their attacks off. And another thing I like is that there's a very heavy emphasis on teamwork. Rarely in the show, you don't have a whole bunch of one-on-one fights. Because for the vast majority, the Kagare are mostly mindless monsters that roam the dimension of Magano. But the Basra are the real threats because they're intelligent, they know how to fight, they have their own techniques, and they can strategize, and they're insanely powerful due to the fact that they evolved by absorbing a bunch of spiritual energy throughout their lifetimes. So it makes sense that with beings so powerful, that one character alone, no matter how powerful, can't completely defeat them. There are some exceptions to that rule, but it doesn't feel like an exception when it's done. It's cleverly written because a lot of times we get these incredibly powerful characters fighting each other, and a lot of times, if they're even or the villain is just that much more powerful, you will need someone to assist you. And that's why it's really because when it comes to Benio and Rokuro, they're the two main characters of the story. No matter what, even if Rokuro is the go-to main protagonist, Benio was also the protagonist of the story, which is why most of the fights involve the two of them fighting together, which is honestly a really nice change of pace because you don't have like duo protagonists battling big bads, and it's a nice breath of fresh air when it comes to that. It's really nice, and I love it that the reason why they fight together is not just because they've had to fight together to make up for each other's weaknesses. Because they're Twin Star Exorcists, they have this specific ability that only the two of them can use called resonance. When they hold hands, their own spiritual powers combine and multiply, making their spells and powers vastly stronger, thus allowing them to fight enemies that they couldn't beat by themselves, a lot more easier to handle. While they themselves get stronger, so do their resonance. I think it's also due to their continued and growing trust in each other that helps their resonance become even stronger. This manga has some very good twists and turns, great character moments, times where you see characters in the pits of utter despair and agony, only to finally make it out of it with newfound hope and determination. There are moments where you will think, is this going to be the end? Only for you to come out of it realizing that it's not the end. There's still a way out of this. In all honesty, since this is a monthly series and it is technically entering its final arc according to the author from the sources I managed to get it from, there's no telling how long this final arc is going to go. Because the previous arc in the manga, which honestly had all the makings of a final arc, if you can believe it or not, because of all the amazing fights and the implications, that was like 2 to 3 years worth of material. Which, if that was an amazing arc as like a somewhat prelude to the big climactic arc, how long is this final arc going to be, and how are they going to end it? I've been satisfied with the Twin Star Exorcists manga ever since I binge read it. I binge read it twice. Once I binge read like 10 chapters, which is like chapter 10 to like 20 something. I read up to like 25, I believe, or 30. Then, at the time of recording this video, I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to binge read as much as I can. And in 3 days, I got up to date with the Twin Star Exorcists manga. It is just that insane considering that monthly series have long-ass chapters. But, yeah, Twin Star Exorcists is a manga you should really get into. The characters, the story, the action, and the artwork, how the story progresses, and how you get the feel when you read it. It's just a really good read, a nice series, and I think it deserves a lot more praise and attention than people give it credit for. Because the same problem with Twin Star Exorcist is one of the same problems for Blue Exorcist. Blue Exorcist was somewhat of a big deal when it came out, whether it be its manga and its first season of the anime. But due to a lackluster finale from the anime, and the fact that it was monthly, it kind of hurt its overall popularity and getting lost in the shuffle of Shonen Jump. It's still popular, though, let me mind you. Same with Twin Star Exorcist, they wouldn't still be ongoing as monthly titles if they did not have a strong following. But it's just sad to see these really good titles that are also monthly get overshadowed by other series, especially in the Jump lineup. I mean, look, you read Attack on Titan monthly. In all honesty, I wanted to catch up with Attack on Titan now. That is another manga I want to catch up on before the final season comes out. But you catch up with Attack on Titan because you enjoyed it. You went on to the anime, and you ended up reading it once the anime was done for a time. Especially during that long-ass period where you didn't know when Season 2 was coming out. But with Twin Star Exorcist, it ended with its 50-episode anime, and you were like, is this the end of the series? Like, I guess it hasn't given us anything for Season 2, but then again, it ended off on a note where it could end. So, that's also a thing. You probably would have thought that the anime just ended, the manga was short or something like that. But no. It's also because of probably the lackluster second half of the anime. Well, lackluster 30 last episodes of the anime that really made you not like the show anymore. And you probably didn't want to bother with the manga, unless you were reading the manga from the start. So what you can get from this video, read the manga for Twin Star Exorcists. It's a really good read, and this year had some of its best material. And that's not to say, this series honestly has everything that I like in a battle shonen anime, and even when it comes to seinen. So yeah, Twin Star Exorcists, a really great manga. Go give it a read. If you thought the anime was lackluster or it sucked, trust me, read the manga, you will lose all those complaints. Will you find something you won't like about the manga? Yes, obviously. Not everybody is going to love everything equal. You're going to nitpick. You're going to find something that you're not going to enjoy. I really enjoy this manga, and depending on how it ends, it could be one of my top 10 or top 20 favorite manga of all time. Then again, I haven't read too many manga, and most of them maybe like 30. So I'm not one to talk, honestly, but regardless, You will probably enjoy this if you like shonen anime and you want to see a shake of the status quo when it comes to having essentially too many characters and having a lot of team-up battles. But yeah, with all that said and done, give Twin Star Extras a shot, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.